game day. Fantasy Week 9 recaps episode.
Dude, what a time to be alive, man.
It's
Week
such
9.
it's so
we
good.
made it.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, it just is, dude.
Yeah, it's like unreal.
We're like halfway through the season, dude.
It's weird.
Isn't that crazy? I feel like it just fucking started. Now we're halfway through the season. You were just ripping like a million mock drafts a day. Like feels like a week ago, like a couple weeks ago, but it was actually 10 weeks ago.
I'm also curious. We have one person on YouTube watching.
Hell yeah.
Shout out that one person. Whoever is that person on YouTube. Actually, now that I realize it, it's me watching it on YouTube. It's me. So 3 watching now. So
it's going up.
It's going up. So as it gets started, as people come in, I'm curious to know what people think. We are, if you are just listening to it on the audio portion, we are trying something new on Caps Off. We are trying to do this through the 9x16 route. We're doing it in landscape. So if you're watching on your phone or watching on TikTok, hopefully it looks a little bit better. So we're trying something new today. If you hate it, let us know. If you prefer it, let us know as well.
Let us know anyways.
Just let us know. Yeah, anyways.
Bingo.
How was your week 9 in fantasy? How'd it go?
It was tough. I had like a 17-point lead, I think, going into Monday Night Football, something like that. And I was playing Keenan Allen and the Jets defense. I ended up losing by 6. So.
Yeah.
It's not great, but I was 5-3, so now I'm 5-4. I'm so confident in the rest of the season. I'm in 7th place right now. So I slipped from like 5 to 7. I'll be all right.
It's so weird. We've said this week over week that most leagues that people are in, you're going to have someone that's, I got to do the math right now. You're either maybe 6-3, 5-4, 4-5, or 3-6. Like everyone is within a couple games.
Right.
And I think it's more important now than ever to like really pay attention. I also think you have a couple weeks left until the until the trade deadline. So making sure that you can make trades now is important, especially as a lot of people on their bye this week. There are a lot of good teams on their bye. So being able to make a trade for one of those players might be in your best interest.
Bro, one thing I didn't mention about this past week, I ran into CJ Stroud.
Like you ran into him in person?
No, like I played him.
Yeah, sucks. 41 fantasy points.
Yeah, bro. Like I'm looking at 41 fantasy points. If he goes out and does a regular performance, goes for 20, I win.
Dude, I went into this week. Bro, I needed a win. I was 4-4, and I went into I got fucked by Christian Watson. I got fucked by Keontae Ingram because Damian Pierce was out, and I had a lot of people on bye in one of these leagues. Don't worry, it's a shameless plug. I'm 8-1 in two of my leagues.
Yeah, you're a dog, bro. I'm Shout out the advice you give.
And I went into Monday Night Football with Austin Eckler going up against me, and I needed him to have anything 9 or less. And if you look at the box score, if you look at Justin Herbert's numbers, you would have thought, all right, he maybe didn't have a good enough game. Obviously, he had 2 touchdowns on the ground, but that fucked me. So we're in a tough spot right now.
So what did Eckler end up with?
I think he had like 15 or 16 because he had 2 touchdowns, but didn't do anything else. Really.
Yeah, I mean, he's a touchdown machine, man.
Yeah.
He's so low to the ground. It's like once he gets in the goal line carries, you're not stopping him.
Shout out to 15 people watching on TikTok, the 7 on YouTube.
Hell yeah.
If you like this new angle, let us know. Let us know in the comments. We're trying something out differently this time around. We won't have lower thirds. We won't have anything, but let us know. And we do have some comments coming in. Nicolo said, can we say that the Bengals are a top 3 team in the AFC and a top 5 team in the league? Well, if you saw our episode yesterday, we did talk about the Bengals. This is a fantasy-specific episode, so we're going to be talking about fantasy only.
So make sure to tune into our podcast if you want to hear that. If you're just coming in through the live, we do an actual podcast that you can go in and listen to on Spotify or Apple or go watch it on YouTube. So go listen to that because we talk about regular football shit.
Matt said, can anyone confirm that Devontae Adams for Puka Nacua and Zach Moss is a decent trade? I would probably prefer the Devontae Adams side. I think you probably would as well.
Yeah, but I think it's fair.
I wouldn't want Zach Moss. I think, and we're going to talk about Jonathan Taylor. He had a good week in terms of usage. He scored a touchdown, but we're definitely going to talk about Jonathan Taylor. Zach Moss is not really someone you can really play right now. He's now just a handcuff insurance to Jonathan Taylor. I think I prefer Devontae Adams just because the ceiling feels a lot higher, and with Matthew Stafford out, it's not someone I can trust.
That's true.
What else? Beezy Boy said, should I drop Chuba Hubbard for Khalil Herbert? I wouldn't. I think the Chicago backfield's a little murky right now.
Murky.
Would rather have Chuba Hubbard, even though he hasn't played well. But let's jump into our fantasy recaps. Let's jump into talking about what happened in week 9. If you have any questions in fantasy, keep dropping them down below. Producer Kondo over there will put them on our screen, so we will answer them. But I want to start off week 9's fantasy recaps with a game. I like playing games. Games have done well on TikTok as of recently. So I'm going to ask you another question.
Oh,
So this is guess these fantasy players. All right. I'm going to.
Tony Pollard.
You nailed it. Name one more.
Xavier Howard.
Yep. Nailed that one. IDP. All right. Guess these fantasy players. I'll give you 2 sets of points, and I want you to tell me who you think these fantasy players are. All right. So I'm just going to name the points, and you're going to tell me who they are. Also, if you want to see the full episode, make sure to go to our YouTube page. The link is in our bio. You can see the full fantasy conversation. The other thing I want to add before we jump into it, everyone thought you were a fucking idiot because you didn't know Sam Howell in the top 5. Everyone fuck off, all right?
Did they really?
Yeah, people were like, how's this guy on a fantasy episode? He's a fantasy fucking dog. That's why.
Hey.
You're my boy, bro.
I do have a winning record. Thank you.
Let's go. That. All right, guess these fantasy players, all right? The first player has 73.5 fantasy points over the last 4 weeks. The second player has 72.1 fantasy points over the last 4 weeks. So obviously this is a vague question. I want you to just anything that comes to mind. Obviously it's not really that included? Much. Quarterbacks are included. And then obviously because you're not going to get it, I realize I set you up to fail. I will tell you the position. But I want you, does anyone come to mind off of these 2 players? 73.5 fantasy points, 72.1 fantasy points. These are 2 sets of players with their total output in PPR over the last 4 weeks.
2 different players.
2 different players.
2 sets of players.
2 sets of players. Yep. 2 individual players from the same set.
Okay. Because 2 sets, I would think 4 players maybe. All right. Got you. Okay.
Guess these fantasy players. Anyone come to mind? Probably not.
Tank Dell.
No. I'm going to give you the position.
No.
Okay.
All right, give me the position.
The position is tight end. So these 2 players come from the tight end.
Dalton Kincaid.
It is not Dalton Kincaid.
Trey McBride.
It is not Trey McBride.
You gotta be fucking shitting me.
So these 2 players.
Jake Ferguson.
Not Jake Ferguson. Shout out the Cowboys. So shout out Texas. Shout out Denton. These are 2 players that have put up between 70 and 75 fantasy points over the last 4 weeks in PPR.
Oh, Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz is not there.
The fuck?
Well, he could have more or less. I'm just giving you 2 people. I'm comparing one versus the other. Do you want me to just tell you?
Yeah.
I'll tell you one of them. How about that? The person with 72.1 fantasy points, Taysom Hill.
Interesting.
Over the last 4 weeks. Can you guess? Now, can you guess this other person?
Where does this rank? Is this like high? I thought I was guessing like some like high fucking scores or some shit. I'm thinking about the top tight end. So
this is tight end 1 and tight end 2.
Oh, okay. That helps. Okay.
So Taysom Hill is tight end 2 since
insane.
week 6 in full PPR for the record. Now it's because he's throwing touchdowns and he's a cheat code. But
absolutely.
So Taysom Hill is tight end 2. Can you guess who's tight end 1?
Mark Andrews.
No. We're just gonna move on. I'm gonna tell you. Okay.
Can you give me an extra hint?
Don't overthink it.
Division.
Don't overthink it. Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce has 73.5 fantasy points since week 6. Taysom Hill has 72.1.
That's crazy.
Fantasy points since week 6. That is the tight end 1 and tight end 2 on the year. Now, Kelce's not a hot take, obviously, and Kelce had a bad last 2 weeks, but he had an amazing week 7.
Yeah.
But Taysom Hill.
Impressive.
Insane.
Yeah. I mean, it's not fair either to compare him with other tight ends. He's getting carries. He's getting fucking direct snaps and shit, running into the end zone. He's throwing passes. So, but hey, good for him. If you're able to start him as a tight end, that's fucking
crazy.
lit.
Yeah, I think he's definitely someone, if he's available on the waiver wire, you must add him. But yeah, so that's it. Let's move into Baltimore's backfield. I want to talk about what's been going on in Baltimore. Obviously, Gus Edwards had 2 touchdowns. And then rookie Keaton Mitchell had an amazing day. 9 rushes, 9 attempts, 138 rushing yards. He was RB5 on the week. What are your thoughts on Keaton Mitchell?
I like him. The fact that Gus Edwards had 2 touchdowns, I mean, like, it's just a weird backfield. And they've always had weird backfields aside when the main guy gets hurt. Even when they have a main guy, it's always weird. They always have multiple guys in rotation. So I think this is a situation where, yeah, Mitchell just had a good week, but next week he could have 6 points.
Yeah.
And not do anything. We saw that last year with Kenyon Drake.
Yep, I was just going to say.
And other guys like that, they kind of rotate. And, like, they have a different offensive coordinator this year. Shout out Todd Monken.
Yep.
Teddy Bridgewater, shout out. They're winning these games, and it's not in the prettiest offensive ways where, like, these guys are going off, certain guys are going crazy. They spread out the ball, and they do it very well. So even Lamar Jackson, I mean, they put up like 30 points this week. He only scored 9 fantasy points. And so look, I like Keaton Mitchell, definitely worth a roster spot at this point, but I don't know if you even start him next week. But Gus Edwards, I think it's a different story because he has the goal line rushes. I might start him as my flex because I know he's going to get the goal line work.
Yeah, just answering a few comments. I see a lot of people asking away. Someone said, thanks for suggesting Tony Pollard for Gus Edwards this weekend with his double touchdowns. But I will start Tony Pollard over Gus Edwards any day of the week. I can't, even though Gus Edwards had the 2 touchdowns, there's no way I couldn't have done that. Keep dropping those questions. We see him. In terms of Keaton Mitchell, yeah, I think he's someone that you add to see what ends up happening in that backfield. He's by far the home run hitter that they don't have in that backfield. He's a better, more burst, home run threat, more than Justice Hill, definitely more than Gus Edwards.
Yeah.
For me, Gus Edwards is not a receiving threat at all. So his value is tied to close games and really blowouts and inside the goal line.
Right.
So I'm still trying to trade Gus Edwards. I think he's still on that sell high list. In terms of Keaton Mitchell, like the home run ability is why you need to add him. He, to me, and given the way the fantasy running back landscape has been, Keaton Mitchell is like somewhat of a priority add just to see, but it's not someone you could start right away. You're going to have a lot of patience with Keaton. I think you made a good point on that one. Someone said, Common Cold said, could Keaton Mitchell be like Achane? Yeah, I think he's like a Walmart version of Achane. And the reason I say that, the only reason I say that is because obviously Achane, they drafted from Texas A&M, a lot of different variables at play, but in terms of home run threat, I think it's very similar. Good offense, good quarterback, all these things. He's going to be put in positions to succeed. So I think it's a good question, though. What do you think?
I mean, I see what you're saying in terms of home run threat, but I just think even still they're not necessarily comparable because of the efficiency that HN has. It's fucking insane. It's like next level, and he's the home run threat of all home run threats right now in the NFL. I know he's been played in the past few weeks. I see what you're saying, though. He's going to make the most of his usage. So
yeah,
it's sort of a comparison, but HN is on another level.
Aiden Kemp just asked about Bijan. He said, what do I do with Bijan Robinson? I think we're going to get in a little bit later to our panic meter. We did it last week, and we're going to talk about him. So I want to save that Bijan conversation for a little bit later. But I will say Bijan Robinson is pretty high on that meter. That definitely worries me a lot. Do we have any comments on YouTube before we keep jumping in? I know there's 59 people watching on YouTube. Shout out everyone on YouTube. Let's find Josh Pilecki, our guy Josh Pilecki. Big win this week by 40, even with Bijan and Kamara's mid performances. Absolutely. You love to see it. Let's find, if we find any questions, make sure to let us know. We'll put them up on screen and we'll answer them. But if not, we will move into the next segment that we're talking about, which is the guy that I feel like I've been pounding the drum. And before we move into it, let me just shameless plug myself on Keaton Mitchell, because your boy called Keaton Mitchell a couple of weeks ago as someone that you could potentially add when they were in London. Obviously, took a little time, but
shout out Upper Hand too.
Shout out Upper Hand.
He talked about that one.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have Upper Hand Fantasy on Thursday's episode.
Yeah.
Do we have a comment there? Did you find a comment? Still scrolling. All right. Well, I want to talk about Aaron Jones, because Aaron Jones officially has life. We've been saying it. We've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks. Aaron Jones is a really good buy low person, because I think his value was tied to like RB3 flex conversation. Yes. And we knew he was going to be able to return eventually. If he was healthy, he's too talented to return. What did you make of Aaron Jones' performance? He had his first touchdown since week 1, 24 touches for 99 total yards, 57% of the snaps. What do you think?
We've been talking about it. It's coming for Aaron Jones. We've seen it with the usage. Like when he gets the usage, the numbers are there. And he's always been that. I mean, he's like king efficiency. And he's always been that. He's always outperformed his draft stock. Aaron Jones is and has been for the past few years either a low end RB1 or RB2. And like you said, I think he's been in that RB3 flex range for a lot of people. But I think safely, like it's great to see that performance, and I think it's something you can expect going forward. We said it, be on the lookout for that, and now we just saw it, and I think it's going to continue going forward.
Totally. Shout out to 60 plus people on TikTok, the 72 plus people on YouTube. You guys are amazing. If you're just scrolling through and you're just coming across this is the Caps Off podcast with me, Felipe, our 2 other best friends. We talk football all the time. We have a ton of episodes. We do 2 fantasy episodes a week. We're talking shit. We're shooting the shit. So make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to see us, if you've just been scrolling. If not, stick around. We'll maybe answer some fantasy questions for you. But yeah, I think Aaron Jones, look, this is who we thought Aaron Jones was, right? If he's healthy, this is who he is. The way I kind of see Aaron Jones right now, if he's healthy, which it looks like he is, he's a high-end RB2. I don't think he'll get into the RB1 category unless this kind of stays consistent in terms of 24 touches. That's somewhat around that RB1 usage, that low end RB1.
Yeah.
But as of right now, if you're an Aaron Jones owner, you've got to be ecstatic the way the running back position has been.
Absolutely.
And hopefully you listen to the podcast, because we've been saying for weeks now to buy him low.
Yep.
Shout out Alex Graciana. He just asked, hey, Adam, can I trust Justin Herbert the rest of the season? What do you think quickly on Justin Herbert?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, in terms of like where you got him, he's probably better than most options you have on the waiver or anything like that. And like, I think you just bank on his potential. A lot of times in fantasy, you want these high ceilings, and Justin Herbert gives you this high ceiling. He still has weapons around him. And so, yeah, I think he's one of those guys that you can't really bench.
Well, I don't know if it was last week or the week before where we had Frank Amarante on, and he had put Justin Herbert in the sell high category just based off of talent.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be fine, but I would limit expectations. The whole QB landscape is also very weird. It's a weird year in fantasy. Quickly, BZ Boy said Tony Pollard for Aaron Jones. Would you do that trade?
No,
I'm holding on Tony Pollard.
It's really tough. That's a really tough one. And like, it's kind of a wash because it's like running back for a running back. They're kind of similar in terms of what they're getting you right now. So I'll probably would just sit tight.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And then another question I want to talk about is shout out Felix on YouTube said, I almost lost because of Trey McBride, but good looking out, guys. Look, Kyler Murray's going to be back. It was Clayton Tune. Hold the line with Trey McBride. He's going to be completely fine.
Keep in mind, too, they obviously lost Josh Dobbs from 1 week to the other. And Josh Dobbs was top 3 in targeting tight ends, I believe, for quarterbacks in the league right now. And so going to a guy that's never played a snap, I don't think Clayton Tune, like, it's going to be an adjustment. I'm sorry about that, though. Trey McBride got a catch like the second play of the game, I think, or something like that for Arizona. And I was like, wow, he's going to go off this game. He didn't, but hey, more good things to come.
Cody Angle on TikTok. Again, we're going through our fantasy week 9 recaps. There's a ton of things to recap, things that happened, but there are a ton of questions coming in. So I want to make sure we get to them. Keep dropping your comments on YouTube. If you are just on YouTube right now and you're scrolling, welcome to the Caps Off Podcast. Hit that subscribe button. We're talking fantasy. We're talking football. And if you're on TikTok, hopefully you're a friend of the pod. But Cody Angle said, should I trade Kelsey? I'm 3-6. I think you have to if you're 3-6.
Yeah, you got to get value in multiple positions. What I'm assuming is that, like, obviously Kelsey gives you a great positional advantage there, but aside from that, you probably need help. Totally. And so, yeah, man, there's some tight ends that are kind of fluttering around, like in that top 10, anywhere from like 5 to 10 that don't have great name value, but they're there. I would try to get one of those guys that you know is going to give you a solid floor. I mean, we talked about like Dalton Schultz earlier, like I threw out his name. Guys like that who are still going to give you production.
Totally.
And then get bigger names at receiver and running back.
If Taysom Hill's on your waiver wire as well, he's someone to add and try and trade. I think if you trade Kelsey, you're looking for 2 pieces back or 3 pieces back. Yeah. I don't even know if you need a tight end necessarily to get back. Obviously, it would be the preference to either get a running back and a tight end or wide receiver and a tight end. But I don't think you necessarily need them. Let's move into talking about Jonathan Taylor quickly. Jonathan Taylor, he only had 47 rushing yards at 2.6 yards per carry, but he had 5 receptions for 22 receiving yards and a touchdown, which salvaged his day. However, what I want to talk about is his usage. The usage was indicative of a guy who was like a massive RB1. I mean, he had 45 snaps, ran 21 routes, 72% of the backfield's carries. I mean, Jonathan Taylor's stock is through the roof right now. I think it is just on the upward trend. What do you make of Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, you love volume for running backs, and you didn't perform like you said. I mean, 2.6 yards per carry, but the volume, the percentage of the carries and the routes or whatever, like he's on the field and he's gonna make the most of his usage. Obviously, now he did this past week, but that's gonna positive regression. And the Colts played the Panthers this past week, right? Am I wrong?
Yep.
Should have played better there. But I think they're going to have some better spots going forward. And Jonathan Taylor's a guy that's like obviously must start. If you have him, like set and forget. You're not worried about him. And so, yeah, you're happy.
Totally. I see all the questions on both YouTube and TikTok. Keep dropping them. Stick around. We are going to get to them. I promise you. I just want to run through our little bit of run of show. Yeah. And before we jump into our panic meter and then answering questions, I want us to take stock of the Texans right now. CJ Stroud, QB1 on the week. He's been QB9 since week 6. He had 41.8 fantasy points. You said you lost your week because of him. Yeah. Tank Dell was wide receiver 1 this past week with 29.6 fantasy points. Nico Collins was wide receiver 13 with 14.4. Dalton Schultz was tight end 1 with 27 fantasy points. But the upside, Devin Singletary stock down. Didn't have a good game. Didn't really do anything. So Dameon Pierce, if you're a Dameon Pierce owner, there might be life. Because what do we say? What have we been saying on this episode? On all of our fantasy episodes? If an offense is playing well and the player is playing well, yeah, I'm worried. But if the offense is playing well and the player isn't really doing anything a part of it, something might change, right? So I think naturally things were changing way back when with Dameon Pierce. He wasn't playing well. He wasn't converting. Offense looks great. maybe Dameon Pierce comes back and healthy this week and actually does something. But you have a weird face on, and you think I'm stupid. Is that what's going on?
How can you tell? How can you tell?
Because you were not making a face.
Well, the logic there, they won. They won with Singletary doing his thing. If they would have lost, then I would agree with you. Yeah, I think that's. You know what, man? The logic is there somehow.
Okay, thank you. I want to move into, before we get to all these questions, talking about Panic Meter. This is our Week 9 Fantasy Panic Meter. If you want to see the full argument, make sure to go to our YouTube page and hit that subscribe button. But I'm going to read off a bunch of players, and you and I are going to talk through, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much we're panicking on this player, okay?
Yeah.
So let's start off with Kenneth Walker. He had 17 total yards, a season low, 2.7 fantasy points. The second week in a row, he scored double digits. Or on a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you panicking on Kenneth Walker?
Like 3. I'm not panicking. I'm not worried at all. They got destroyed by the Ravens. It wasn't the game script for him. And yeah, he's a game script dependent guy because he's not a receiving back or anything like that. Not good at pass protection. Very bad. But the Seahawks are a good team and they're better than most teams in the league. So most of their games going forward, aside from the games against like a San Francisco or other teams like that, like they're gonna be okay. He's gonna get the ball more and he's gonna make the most of that. He's a home run threat. I'm not worried about him in particular, or even Charbonnet. I think that they're both gonna be all right. They're gonna have better games than what they just saw against Baltimore.
Agree with you on everything, except I would probably put it closer to a 4, only because Pete Carroll's been talking up Zach Charbonnet like crazy.
That's
so
true.
Naturally, it is going to be closer to a split. Kenneth Walker's probably in that buy low category right now.
I agree with you. I just think that even with a split, like this past game, what we saw, these lack of numbers and everything, was the matchup. They got fucking destroyed. That's not going to happen most games.
Let's move into the next one. Bijan Robinson, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you panicking?
Yeah, like fucking
bro. This is
like a 6 or a 7. Like,
yeah.
I've been saying things are gonna get right with him. Like things are gonna go up because I just figured that this is just a rookie thing, and Arthur Smith is just getting him more involved as the weeks go by. But like, what the fuck? In a game that you lose, a game that you actually lose, and like I get it because a lot of those games they were winning.
Yeah.
And they were okay getting by with not giving him that type of usage.
I totally disagree.
But now they just lost.
It makes no fucking sense.
Now they just lost.
Bijan Robinson, 5.9 fantasy points. He's had 1 goal line carry this year inside the 5. The last time he had 15-plus carries was in week 2. He began the season with at least 4 receptions in 5 of his first 6 games, but in the last 3 games, he has only 2 receptions. He's RB 18 or worse in 6 of the last 7 games. I mean, look, if Arthur Smith is the head coach right now, he is nothing more than a flex, which is fucking absurd, because Bijan Robinson is a guy that is RB1 territory, right? Like when Saquon got drafted to the Giants, we thought Bijan was going to have this type of usage. It makes absolutely no sense. I'm saying Bijan Robinson is probably an 8 on the panic meter as long as Arthur Smith is the head coach, because it's not like Arthur Smith is changing his tune. It's not like he's saying anything differently. He keeps saying the same thing over and over again. I'm going to feed the hot hand. And frankly, you kept feeding Tyler Algier and he had a less yards per carry. So it makes absolutely no sense. I think Bijan Robinson will still stay in that buy low category because we are going to still bet on talent. But when it comes to panicking, he is by far super high on that panic meter.
Yeah, the only reason I don't have him higher at like an 8, 9, or 10 is because like all this that's happening doesn't change the fact that he was a top 10 pick and that he's probably the most talented guy on that offense.
Yes, definitely.
And so, like, again, just banking on potential. I know you probably hate hearing that, but it's just what it is.
You have to.
They're going to have to.
They're going to have to. Someone's going to change. And I think Arthur Smith is someone that I don't know if I expect him to get fired, but he's easily someone that could. Yeah. So I think Bijan Robinson will stay buy low. But panic meter is definitely through the roof when it comes to Bijan, just based off of the usage, right? Because that's all we can go off of as of right now. Another one, scale of 1 to 10, Tony Pollard. How much are you panicking on him?
Oh, yeah, Pollard, I'm at a 7 or 8. It's about like it's again, he's another guy week after week. We're like, it's gonna get right. It's gonna get right. I was more worried about him when both him and CD were not playing well, or not at least performing well fantasy wise. I already said like CD's gonna get his. They're gonna have to target him, but Tony is like he just doesn't look good out there. He's not getting any yards when he touches the ball. Against Philly, he actually looked the best I think he's looked. But still, if he's just not getting the type of usage that we would like him to see. The offensive line isn't looking great in terms of run blocking, and he's not getting the passing volume at all. Mm-hmm. And so it's to the point now where we've seen way more bad than good, and I'm actually worried.
I would probably put it around like the 6.5 range. And the only reason I'll put it around the 6.5 is because he did have that touchdown that was called back. and it looked like it was a touchdown, right? Was
It
that the
should've
play
been a
that Dak
touchdown, yeah.
checked in with the
Yeah.
the ref? So I think that would have changed his outlook drastically. However, it was the fourth time in his last 5 games Tony Pollard finished with single-digit PPR points. It's the fourth time he's been outside the top 25. He hasn't scored a touchdown since week 1. The reason he's not like an 8.5 and he's a 6.5 is the Cowboys have the 10th easiest remaining schedule for running backs. If you need a running back and knowing where the landscape is, Bijan and Tony Pollard, I will still try and buy them low, knowing the same formula was applied to Aaron Jones, right? Which we just talked about. Aaron Jones and Javonte Williams, really, over the last couple of weeks have been buy lows for us. We knew that their value was not tied to what their actual upside and ceiling are. We know that their usage right now is probably the RB2 to flex category, even RB3 potentially if you're Bijan Robinson. I think they're going to naturally return on that investment, so they're higher. A few other names. Christian Watson, how high are you on the scale of 1 to 10 on the panic meter?
How did you do this past week?
He had 1 catch.
Yikes.
Got hurt, back, chest, concussion, everything. I'll answer my own fucking question.
8.
Yeah, I think you have to panic.
Is that an 8?
But I think it's also tied to the way that offense has been. I think
that's my main concern.
Yeah, I think he's no more like I don't feel confident putting Christian Watson in lineups right now. I just don't. However, another type of guy that I think positive regression will come towards the back half of the season. Hopefully, this is a sign of better things to come with Aaron Jones getting the ball, opens things up for all the receivers.
We saw last year he popped off against the Cowboys. That was his coming out party. He scored like 3 touchdowns, I think, against Dallas. And then after that, throughout the rest of the season, he just continued that production. We thought it was a blimp on the radar. It wasn't. And so the same thing can happen, not just with him, but with Pollard, other guys like that. That's why it's important to look at the rest of the schedule, who they have left.
Yep.
So Watson, the biggest reason I'm down on him is exactly what you said. Is that offense just looks terrible, and Jordan Love doesn't look good, and it's horrible. Last year, at least they had Aaron Rodgers, who was going to air it out to him. I don't know what the fuck's going on here. This is more of a Packers offense problem than a Christian Watson problem. I'm still worried.
2 last guys on our panic meter. DJ Moore, 4th consecutive game with less than 56 yards.
Yeah.
What do you make of?
I'm not worried
DJ
at all. Justin Fields is coming back, and we know that Fields and DJ Moore have a rapport. Didn't mean to rhyme there, but I'm a natural spitter.
Yeah. No, that was great.
I was born into the rap game, and we know that they play well together. DJ Moore was doing well. He had a crazy few game stretch with Justin Fields, and then Badgett comes in and obviously underperforms. Of course, we didn't even know who the fuck this guy Badgett was. Okay, you expecting DJ Moore to go off with him? No, it's not gonna happen. Justin Fields is coming back. DJ Moore is going to get back up. And I'm not saying he's going to have his fucking 50-point performance that he had in week 3 or 4, whatever the fuck that was.
Yep.
But he's going to play better with Justin Fields. They're going to manufacture catches for him. And to get Justin Fields hot, too, they're going to want these short passes. They're going to want the screens. And that's all going to go to DJ Moore.
Totally. I think you got to put DJ Moore in that buy low category as well. Quickly, though, you putting a number on it? How much you panic on DJ? I put like probably a 3 or 4. I'm not over the 5 because I agree with you. Without Justin Fields, I can't.
3, yeah.
Last but not least, our guy Zay Flowers, currently wide receiver 39 since week 6. Back-to-back weeks with less than 7 fantasy points. In week 3 weeks ago, he had 11.5 fantasy points. How much are you panicking on Zay Flowers?
Again, low 3. He's gonna get his volume. This Ravens. Okay, here's why I'm worried about this Ravens offense, and it's not about Zay. Again, this is kind of like a Christian Watson, but even less about the player. The Ravens are winning these games by a lot. They're killing everybody, and they just become a running team. They're just getting into Gus Edwards 2 touchdowns. Like they spread in the wealth, and it's not gonna be like that every single week. The Ravens are gonna have to kind of turn it up a notch offensively, especially in the passing game when they start playing some of these better teams. And they're going to play the Bengals in a couple weeks. They're a lot more hot than they were before. The Browns are going to be better than they were the last time they played them. And when they smoked them. So they're going to be in positions where they're going to have to force feed their best players, whether it's Mark Andrews or Zay Flowers. Those are the 2 best players on their roster outside of Lamar Jackson, or on their offense at least. Outside of Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers is going to be a beneficiary of that. And I think he's going to be just fine, bro. They're going to give him the volume.
I agree with you. However, over the last 3 weeks, he's averaged 35 receiving yards a game. So I think,
yeah, but I think as for a PPR guy, like if you're playing standard, then I'd be more worried. As a PPR guy, like he's going to get his catches.
I agree with you. I think you nailed on the head. You said around like the 2 to 3 range.
Yeah, 3, 4.
I think 3. I think you probably put at 4 only because the volume's there, but the touchdowns have not been.
Yeah.
It's also he's not as like. The yardage hasn't been what you expected. So I put it at 4, but I agree with you. Game script, he had 1 catch last week, and that it was a blowout. It was a blowout the whole time.
Also,
so I'm not panicking.
He's probably your flex if you're playing him. Like, And so keep that in mind. Like, he's a good flex. He's giving you a good floor as a flex, especially when he gets his volume.
Totally.
This last game was an outlier.
All right. Well, that was our panic meter. All right.
Yeah.
So if you were just watching that whole thing, make sure to go to our YouTube page and watch the full conversation over it.
Bingo.
But a ton of people in the comments right now. We have 92 people watching on YouTube, over 70 on TikTok.
Nice.
Make sure to drop your comments for week 9. We're going to try and get to as many as we can. I see a ton of them. Edgar Ramos on TikTok said, should I keep or trade Raheem Mostert?
I would try to trade. I would try to trade Raheem, but if you got him on your squad and like you can't trade him, I mean, you just got to keep starting him. Like, you're not mad. It's like one of those guys where, yeah, try to see what value you can get from him. Maybe get a younger running back who has a lesser chance of getting hurt down the line. But if you are not able to get rid of him, you're okay because he's been given consistent production. This is like the first season we've seen him kind of stay healthy. I know he popped up on the injury report this week, but these are early week things that always happen with players, and they're going to be off of it in a minute.
Yeah, to answer that question, like we've been talking about Mostert since I think week 3, and he's been on that sell high list. I just don't think anyone's going to buy Raheem Mostert because people know that Achan's coming back. People know that he's 31 years old with an injury history. So I think your best option is just to keep riding Raheem Mostert because even with Achan back, he's going to be an RB2. He's going to find his way into the end zone. They paid him money. Mike McDaniel loves him. So if you could sell Raheem, amazing. I don't know if you're going to be able to. And it's okay if you can't because he's still an RB2. I see a great comment, Kyler on YouTube. Shout out everyone on YouTube watching. Kyler Murray, yeah, he said, "Boys, I need to know what the hell to do with Bijan. It's 4 weeks now.
I know.
I've lost. How do I recover? I have Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor at running back, Puka Nacua, Allen at wide receiver. Keenan Allen.
Dude, like, I'm so sorry to tell you this. You got to hold on to Bijan.
I agree.
You're not going to get the return. Like, you're better off risking that he stays bad than you are getting rid of him, and then he actually pops off for the rest of the season. Like, especially the fact that they lost this past week, this bodes in his favor. Like, they're gonna have to give him more carries, more touches, everything like that for them to win. And so, dude, you got to hold on to Bijan. I'm so sorry what you're going through.
I agree with you. I think you have to hold. If you were to make a move, the unfortunate part would be you have to trade a Jonathan Taylor or Josh Jacobs. I think Jonathan Taylor would get you biggest return.
Yeah, probably.
The problem is really Puka because his value is tied to Stafford. Obviously, he didn't do anything, but I think they're on a bye now. So hopefully the goal is Stafford to come back healthy. But I think you got to hold the line. Positive regression, as we like to say. We're going to begin wrapping up in a bit. There's a ton of people. If you are part of the 89 people, bless you, on YouTube watching, if you are part of the 51 on TikTok, hit that subscribe button wherever you are, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on TikTok. We do this every Tuesday and Thursday. On Sunday, we do a watch along and a pregame show where we're talking fantasy, helping you out winning leagues. On Thursday, we're going to have Upper Hand Fantasy. If you're on Instagram, you've probably seen Upper Hand Fantasy. We're going to come in. That's our buy low, sell high episode. So if everyone is asking trade questions, what do I do with this player? What can I get for that player? Thursday is the place you want to be. That happens at 10:30 a.m. So set your reminder. We will be live on Thursday, 10:30 a.m. with Upper Hand Fantasy from Instagram, talking buy low and sell highs. But we'll do a few more questions before we wrap. Shout out to 100 people now watching on YouTube. Zach says, I have Taysom Hill and Johnny Smith, but both are out week 11. That's tough. I'm trying to trade Taysom Hill. I mean, he's a sell high. What'd you say? Comment before that? Where's Zach? Oh, hey, Adam, could you help? Oh, I see. Zach said, hey, Adam, could you help out with a package for Dalton Schultz? I have Michael Pittman Jr., Christian Kirk, Mike Evans, Adam Thielen, and Deebo Samuel. For a running back, I have Travis Etienne, Rashad White, Gus Edwards. I need a tight end for week 11, and Dalton is on the bench. Is this a must win? His roster is pretty fucking good. So
he's trying to muster up a trade for who?
He's trying to get a tight end for week 11. I think depending on your record,
bro, but he has Dalton.
He has Dalton Schultz on the bench. He's on a bye. Well, that wouldn't make sense because they just had their bye, the Texans. So
Kincaid?
Oh, it could be Kincaid. No, but is it Kincaid?
Brother.
No,
he said Dalton Schultz. No, he started off with Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, he said Dalton Schultz.
Bro.
He wants to trade for Dalton Schultz, maybe?
Oh, no, he wants to. He wants to trade Dalton Schultz and get a package back for Dalton. Wrap somebody around Dalton to get someone back. Is that what you're saying? I don't know. Okay. Now I already lost your team because I can't see it on the screen anymore. But package Dalton and one of your guys for a kind of like second tier. I see it now. Yeah. Pittman, Kirk, Christian Kirk, Mike Evans. Okay, you're deep at receiver, right? I would package Dalton Schultz and somebody like Mike Evans or Christian Kirk, probably Christian Kirk for like a wide receiver 2 type, like I don't know, bro. Maybe like or sorry, not a wide receiver, a running back, because you need running backs. So a running back that maybe isn't getting as much love right now, like a Tony Pollard or Aaron Jones, like we mentioned. I'll leave it at that. Hopefully, we answered your question.
Yeah, good shit. Also, in our chat, you can probably see we plugged Underdog Fantasy. If anyone likes sports betting, but is maybe not 21 and up, you can only be 18 to play with Underdog or any of these DFS apps. So you can go to thegameday.com/promotions and sign up. Look, sports betting is somewhat intimidating, where you're like money line, spreads. It's too hard. But what if there was a place you could bet on, is this person having more or less fantasy points than this player? If there was a place where you're like, I could bet on fantasy points, Underdog is the place. Make sure to go to thegameday.com/promotions. Or if you're on our YouTube page, make sure to hit, there is a link there, I believe, for Underdog Fantasy. Check that out. If you want to bet, it is by far one of the most fun ways to place some bets.
Bingo.
Last but not least, before we begin wrapping up, 103 people watching on YouTube.
God.
Look, we're fucking big time.
YouTube.
Calvin J said, should I be worried about Alvin Kamara? I think this is a good question to answer.
Not necessarily. It's funny. We were talking about Taysom Hill earlier in this episode, and it's like, it feels like the main Alvin Kamara vulture is fucking Taysom Hill. Always has been. But I'm not necessarily worried about Alvin Kamara, not because of obviously a down performance, and it's not because I think he's gonna go off as like a rusher or anything like that, but he's always gonna have his volume in the receiving game. And we know that's so valuable for a running back. We talk about red zone carries and we talk about receptions. Like Kamara's getting his receptions, and then he can have his games where he does go for, close to 100 yards rushing. So I'm holding on to Kamara, or I'm trading him for but it has to be, I have to get something good in return.
I just traded Kamara.
You probably got something good in return.
The thing is, I needed a quarterback, and I was 7-1 in this league. I traded Alvin Kamara, Justin Fields, Rashee Rice, and Nico Collins, because these guys were on my bench. Because I had Keenan Allen, CeeDee Lamb already, and I have Achane on IR. Then I need to clear some spots. And I got back Lamar Jackson because I needed a quarterback. Tony Pollard, which I was willing to sacrifice. And Brandon Ayuk as another wide receiver. So I was okay with it.
It's a big trade.
Answer
that's a blockbuster.
It's a blockbuster. It was a big one. It was a 4 for 3. To answer the question in terms of Alvin Kamara, I'm not worried about Kamara, but I do think his value is tied to his receptions, which is somewhat worrisome.
Yeah.
But he had 11 fantasy points. I agree with you. Taysom Hill vultured a lot of his stuff. Look, Alvin Kamara has been like the RB1 over the last 4 weeks, whatever it is.
Exactly.
I don't think he's going to be the RB1 for the rest of the season. I do think he's a top 12 running back.
Yes. Which is why, maybe wait one more week. He's going to go back up from that 11. I guarantee you, if he doesn't come back and I don't know, do something to me, shave my head or some shit, Kamara is going to be bounced back this upcoming week. And then if you want to trade him then. Trade him then. That's what I was tell you.
Let's find a few more questions before we begin to wrap up. Again, I see a lot of start-sit questions. We will be doing start-sit on Thursday, so if you have any start-sit questions, make sure to tune into that. That's 5 p.m. on Thursday. And then I also see a lot of trade questions specifically. That happens on Thursday. We're going to have Underdog, Upper Hand Fantasy on the podcast on Thursday, so we're going to do that.
How about Maxwell Wooey? Use number 1 waiver on Keaton Mitchell. I would say
I think you should. But I also think it depends on your record, because I think Keaton Mitchell is not someone that you could start next week and get a return from. I think Keaton Mitchell is a guy similar to Leonard Fournette that you're probably hoping in 3 weeks is the starting running back. So depending on your record, Maxwell, I would say add Keaton Mitchell. But if you need a win next week, Keaton Mitchell is not someone you could start. I also will say this. I think a lot of people ran to the waiver wire to add Leonard Fournette. Look out for people dropping him this week, because they didn't activate him from the practice squad. And a lot of times people are going to overreact to that not happening. Leonard Fournette looked fucking great in the pictures that came out of Buffalo. So Leonard Fournette might be available.
In the pictures?
Well, just in shape. He's always been a fat fuck. Yeah, he's always been fatter.
Yeah, he looked great.
He looked great. He looked again, if pictures translated, this dude is RB1 overall.
Honestly, if somebody has Leonard Fournette, trade your whole team for him right now because of that picture that we saw about his big ass leg.
Let's see. Any more questions? Shout out Bro Council. I see you guys on YouTube watching.
Council, shout out, boys. Shout out, friends of the pod.
Last but not least, we'll do this one and we'll wrap after this.
Right, let's do it.
This is from Colton Rice on YouTube.
Jerry
He
Rice's
asked-
cousin. Yeah,
Yep,
I bet you didn't know
exactly.
that. Yeah.
He said, "Is Rashad White a sell high?"
Yeah. I mean, I hate him.
RB4 since week 6.
Oh wow! I mean, there you go. That's a good stat. Yeah, these sell high for sure. The one thing and I haven't been following him as closely over the past few weeks, but like I know that his efficiency numbers aren't there necessarily, but he has been playing well recently, beginning the end zone. I would try to sell high and get a guy that I know for a fact is gonna bring me more on a consistent basis week to week. But I think he's another one of those guys where it's like, yeah, like try to sell high based off of what he's done, but what he's done is valuable. So if you can't sell him, then obviously he's going to stay in your lineup, but he's going to keep producing for you.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I think there's Rashad White is a guy that I would test the waters on, but he's been really good. Obviously, Alex Caruso, friend of the pod,
He's
always been high on him
since beforehand. Before the season.
I thought of one last thing that I want to do because
Sure.
of shout out our guy Alex Caruso.
Let's
so
do
just
it.
bear with me.
Alex.
Can you guess the top 5 running backs in fantasy PPR since week 7?
Okay.
Week 7.
Rashad White.
Rashad White is RB3.
You like that?
I like that poll. If you want to see the full conversation, make sure to go to our YouTube page, link in bio, hit that subscribe button.
AK41.
AK41. Alvin Kamara is RB2, 67.3 fantasy points. So right now you have the RB2 and the RB3 in fantasy since week 7. I need 1, 4, and 5. Here's the softball. You know who else is on there. He's had his bye. These last 2 have had their bye, and they're still in the top 5 since week 7. Come on. You know one. You know the one. Don't overthink it.
I do?
Yeah. Who's hot as fuck?
Oh, Christian McCaffrey.
Christian McCaffrey. RB5. 52.4 fantasy points. Probably would have been higher if he didn't have his bye last week.
Yeah, absolutely.
RB5 since week 7. All right. I need RB4 and RB1. Come on.
And we're going to end it on that. All right.
We're going to end it on it.
Ooh.
You want a hint?
Yeah.
Who was the fantasy community super high on?
Jonathan Taylor?
No. Around the round 3 mark in fantasy drafts. Super high on.
Oh, J.K. Dobbins, of course.
Oh, well, that was only you.
I was.
Super high.
Round 3?
Round 3. Come on.
Bro, there was a lot of
He's a running back.
Kenneth Walker.
Well, obviously he's a running back because we're doing guess the top 5 running backs in fantasy. No. Come on.
Give me a division.
Got drafted this year. You know the guy.
Oh, Jahmyr Gibbs.
Jahmyr Gibbs, RB4 since week 7, and he's had a bye this past week.
Wow.
Now I need the number 1 running back in fantasy since week 7 in a PPR league, and this dude does not catch passes. Who is it? We talked about him earlier on.
Gus Edwards.
Gus Edwards is the RB1 in fantasy
That's
since
insane,
week
bro.
7. Shout out Alex Caruso for that stat.
Shout out.
Rashad White and Gus Edwards are in elite company. Don't think you're going to try. I would try and trade Gus Edwards. Rashad White, look, usage is there. He's the RB1 on a team. Volume's there. Volume's king. Gus Edwards, I'm trying to trade, but what a stat. You know what I'm saying?
I like that one. That's
was
a
good.
clip. That's a clip for you right
Good
there.
way to end it. All right. Well, hey, that was fun. That was good. Where can they find us tomorrow?
Tomorrow? What's tomorrow?
Cafeteria episode?
Cafeteria episode. Yeah, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Brand new episode drops at like 4 a.m. So if you're an early bird, or if you're in California, you could honestly stay up to like 1 a.m. and actually catch our episode. But yeah, you'll hear our episode. It's gonna be fun, man. We got some games, some trivia. You know, we know you guys like playing along with our fucking games and shit where we do these kind of what we just did right now. We do a lot of those. And then we got another fantasy episode coming out Thursday. We're gonna have our guy Faraz from Upper Hand Fantasy, huge on Instagram. Obviously, we know you guys love him. We love him, and he drops gems. So you're gonna want to tune in for that. It's gonna be live on Thursday,
10:30 a.m. I think a lot of people also like this little new format we did.
I like it. The vertical
is good. Also, a lot of comments asking how is Travis Etienne not on that. Travis Etienne RB9 since week 7 actually. So that's how. But hey, as we sign off on every fantasy episode, Felipe, drop us with some words of wisdom.
He who laughs last laughs best.
Woo! Doggy!
Yeah, that was different.
That was good.
Hey, don't play with me, bro.
I didn't hear a single word you said, but I heard he who laughs laugh. All right. Hey, we'll see you tomorrow for our cafeteria episode, and hopefully we see you Thursday for our fantasy buy low sell.